May I come in, sir?
Yes, please do.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Please take your seat.
Thank you, sir.
You're Mr. Divyanshu Chaudhary.
Yes, sir.
Divyanshu, I hope you have noticed that you're sitting around 12-13 feet from all of us, right?
Yes, sir.
So you are at a safe distance, which effectively means that if you wish, you can remove your mask. You'll be feeling more relaxed and there will not be that fogging issue with the glasses.
Sure, sir.
Please do. Right. Comfortable?
Yes, sir.
Fine, Divyanshu. Tell us something about you.
Sir, my name is Divyanshu Chaudhary. I belong to the Jaipur city of Rajasthan. I have done my schooling from St. Anselm's, engineering from BITS Pilani and MBA from IIM Calcutta. After that, I worked for a year in HSBC Bank also, and since then I have been preparing for civil services exam. And my hobbies include quizzing, writing Hindi stories, reading biographies, and an interest in the Indian mythology, particularly the Mahabharata.
So Divyanshu, you did electrical and electronics engineering from BITS, moved to IIM Calcutta, then the banking thing, now the civil services. What exactly is your goal? Where you want to career-wise?
Sir, my final goal is to have a career in civil services. And this I realized during my experience in HSBC, where I felt a need to go for a career where I could use my technical and managerial skills across diverse sectors to contribute to nation building. And sir, since administration lies at the intersection of technology and management, that's why civil services came as a natural choice to me post-banking.
You were born in Banswara.
Yes, sir.
Rajasthan. You're
Yes.
basically a person from Rajasthan. Yes. Who was Govind Guru? Why is it mentioned when we mention Banswara?
Sir, Govind Guru was the leader of tribal folks in Banswara, and he carried out a revolt in the Aravali Mangad Hillock region, and it was suppressed brutally by the British, and it is also known as the Jallianwala Bagh massacre of Rajasthan.
Okay. Tell us more about these tribal folks, as you said.
So, particularly in Rajasthan, we come across 5 tribal folks: Meenas, Bhilas, Damors, Sahariyas and Garasiyas, where Sahariyas also come under the PVTG section. And particularly in Banswara, they inhabit the forest region, which is very much prevalent in Banswara and the southern part of Rajasthan.
So, what are the characteristics of Sahariyas? The tribal characteristics on the basis of which we call them tribals?
So, they have an indigenous culture of themselves, and they identify with the culture as well as the traditions that go along the tribe. And at the same time, they also follow certain practices. For example, particularly in the southern part, we see the shifting agriculture, and at the same time, their health and education parameters are slightly below the average of Rajasthan also. So based on these socio-economic indicators and their culture, they classify as the tribal folks.
You've taken mathematics as your optional?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me the basic question. What are numbers?
So numbers are countable entities. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc.
Numbers are countable entities. So if I say these are two things, so these things become number.
So numbers are things that are used to count objects. So they are countable entities where they can be used to put a value to a particular object, and they form the basic of mathematics due to their counting.
If you look at mathematics in general or geometry in particular, but all mathematics actually, we say that let ABC is a triangle. Why let? Why not we simply make it a statement, ABC is a triangle? Why we assume that ABC is a triangle? Or why we have to assume? You getting my question?
I'm sorry, sir, I did not quite follow it, the last part.
When we say let ABC is a triangle, why do we use the word let? Why can't we say with certainty that ABC is a triangle? And it's applicable all mathematics. I'm just giving you an example.
So though I'm not quite sure about it, but I think it's just the nomenclature where a three-letter word can be used to represent a triangle because of the three vertices that are present in the triangle.
So if I draw a triangle on the piece of paper, it will not be a triangle.
It will be a triangle, sir.
If it is a triangle, then we'll say ABC is a triangle. Why do we say let ABC is a triangle?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware about the exact reason.
Fundamentals, no problem. Must have done linear programming?
Yes, sir.
What is duality?
Sir, duality represents the functions where a variable can be substituted by its dual variable in terms of the constraints and the optimization function that is given. And both the duality and the normal linear programming lead to the same optimum value when we talk about the result.
So if I put it in a layman term, suppose there's a problem. Problem is that low sex ratio in Rajasthan. What will be the duality of this problem?
So practical aspects I am not aware of.
No problem. So,
Dibyanshu.
Yes, sir.
So, do you read newspapers?
Yes, sir.
Which newspaper do you follow?
So the Hindu and the Times of India.
So, what is the headline for today in Hindu?
Sir, it talks about the IPCC report which has come out today. So that is the major focus of.
So, what the report says?
So the report says that the events, for example, floods, precipitation are going to increase in the near future. And at the same time, we also see a decline in the polar ice caps, which can even lead to more disasters in the future.
So, has this report anything different from the previous report?
Sir, the subjections are pretty much precise as compared to the previous report. But apart from that, the normal procedures that are being followed are same only.
So, which report it is from IPCC?
Sir, it is the 6th assessment report.
What is IPCC and what is its function?
Sir, IPCC represents Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and it was established by the combination of UNEP and WMO in 1988. Its basic functions revolve around doing scientific observations related to getting scientific data and culminating them to produce results as to what will be the situation of weather in the future and the present as well.
So, who is the head of IPCC now?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware about that.
Okay, yesterday maritime security was in news. You must have gone through that news. Why it is a matter of concern for us?
So, maritime security was in news because our Honorable Prime Minister said that in the UNSC meeting where we have assumed the presidency. And the issue is because particularly in the Indian Ocean region, we see a lot of activities like piracy, and at the same time trafficking and terrorism activities are also going on in this region. So our contribution with the Sagar Doctrine is responsible for catering to this maritime security and increasing it further by being the net security provider image of India.
What is the full form of Sagar?
Sir, it is security and growth for all in the region.
All in the region, right. Okay, Prime Minister gave 5 points to ensure the maritime security.
Sir, first point relates to settling disputes in a favorable manner and peaceful manner with all the contributions of the nations. One is going for the Sagar Doctrine, which is already being talked about. The third one refers to the connectivity in the region by building various infrastructure as well as various other projects in the Indian Ocean region. Fourth one talks about peaceful trade relations with these countries. And the fifth one talks about maintaining a sustainable environment in the maritime region so as to protect the vulnerable countries present in this region.
Okay. He also mentioned that the India and Bangladesh has resolved their disputes in the Indian Ocean part of Bay of Bengal. What were the disputes that he was talking of?
So, there were issues particularly related to the land boundary and the maritime boundary agreement between India and Bangladesh. And the land boundary agreement have been resolved via shifting the conclaves of both the regions with the 100th Constitutional Amendment Act. And the maritime boundary has also been resolved particularly in 2014, but I do not remember the exact details about it.
Okay, in that regard, what is baseline from which the various distances or areas are defined in ocean? Like EEZ, for the sake of EEZ, we take 200 nautical miles from the baseline. What is baseline and how it is calculated?
So the baseline refers to the shoreline from which the 200 nautical miles distance
Obviously,
is measured.
how that shore line is decided or calculated? Is there any methodology, or we just go by the features of the coastline?
Sir, though I'm not exactly aware about how is it calculated, but I'm aware about the zonations that happen. For example, territorial and contiguous
No,
zone.
I'm not asking about that. Is there any such criteria or division for the aviation as well?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware about it.
Okay, Divyanshu. Sir.
Divyanshu Chaudhary. You born on 14th of Feb.
Yes, sir.
Something specific about this date?
Sir, Valentine's Day, and it's also the birthday of our late External Affairs Minister, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj.
So you also celebrate Valentine's Day?
Sir, not had the chance to do it yet.
Okay. So tell me why we should select you in the civil services?
Sir, firstly, my motivation for going for civil services is quite precise and concise. At the same time, during my experiences in BITS Pilani and IIM Calcutta, I have acquired certain technical and managerial skills along with leadership qualities that are very much prevalent in administration and can help me in the future.
When you realized that you want to be part of civil services, like in the engineering or in MBA or in when you were in job?
So, though my interest started when I was teaching in NSS in BITS Pilani, but my precise confidence and reasoning came when I was working in HSBC.
Okay, so basically, first of all, you make your career secured going to the IIM Calcutta, and then after that, you decided for civil services, that I have a secured career, that in case if I won't be able to clear the examination, then I have a backup plan.
No, sir, I did not think it in that perspective. Actually, during my experience in BITS Pilani, since civil services and management both were my interest due to NSS and extracurrics, and after consulting my seniors, they told me that managerial skills will be important in both these sectors. So that's why I decided to go for a B school first to acquire those skills.
And that can't be acquired while you're in civil services?
I'm sorry, sir?
That can't be acquired, the managerial skills can't be acquired when you're in civil services?
Sir,
and for that thing, you need to go to IIM Calcutta, and you spent 2 years over there. Then after that, you went to HSBC for 1.5 years that you mentioned. And then you're being able to acquire all the skills, and then you decided for civil services. You worked in HSBC Bank. Okay. To which country it belongs? Like the registered headquarters of this bank?
Sir, originally it was in Hong Kong and Shanghai, so China. But now the headquarters have also been shifted to London as well. So there are 2 headquarters now.
Okay. So does it come under the DSIB of England?
Yes,
DSIB,
sir, it does.
you aware?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The act, I have heard of it, but I'm not quite sure of the full form, but it does come under it. I've read it somewhere.
Okay. And what are the DSIBs in our country?
So they are SBI, ICICI and HDFC. They are the systematically important banks that I just realized, right?
So you must be heard about Basel then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the BIS is located over there. So why we are being giving a name called Basel norms? It's just that because of the place where the BIS is situated, or something else? That is the only reason that the BIS is situated over there and they have given a name called Basel?
Sir, I think so, but I'm not quite sure about it.
Okay. What are the other things which are being famous about the area Basel?
Sir, apart from lying in the Switzerland, I'm not aware about anything.
Okay. What are the things which are being famous in Switzerland?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware about that.
You never heard about the watches in Switzerland and the chocolates and the other things?
The chocolates, yes, sir. Thank you for the information.
Okay, fine. You were in IIM.
Yes, sir.
IIM Calcutta. So IIMs are like what? They are autonomous body, or like how the government of India created these institutions in our country?
So IIMs are autonomous institutions which are registered under the Societies Registration Act.
Okay.
But they've also been given quite a lot of autonomy, particularly under the IIM Act of 2017, where they can now issue their degrees as well.
Okay, fine. Tell me one thing. Don't you think so that in the recent time IIMs have increased the fees a lot for the students who want to join for the MBA courses and the other? The fees is quite high and the common man can't afford to go, and join the courses over there. Because the kind of income that you have mentioned in your def, it was quite easy for you to afford that MBA. But what about the poor people in our country? Don't you think so the fees is quite high? Who fixes the fees in IIM?
Sir, firstly, the fees is fixed by the institution only, because since they are autonomous institutions and they do not get any funding from the government, so it is derived based on their discretion. And so secondly, as you rightly mentioned, the fees has increased a lot in the recent times. But particularly in IIMs, we see two aspects which can be effectively catered to. First, the bank loans are pretty easily available at interest rates which are very viable when it comes to students. And secondly, we also have merit cum need scholarships for students who belong to the lower strata of the society, so that they can do well and at the same time study in IIM with a better fees process.
And whatever education loan that has been taken by the student, do we have any exemption in the income tax sector? Like when you start earning, you can take exemption of whatever interest you're being paying for that?
Yes, sir. There are certain exemptions which are present.
Like how much you can claim as an exemption?
Sir, actually my father looked into it, so I'm not quite aware about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chaudhary,
Yes, ma'am.
you're from Rajasthan. Could you please tell me main industries of Rajasthan?
Ma'am, the most important industry is tourism industry, which contributes to nearly 15% of the GDP. Apart from that, particularly in the industrial sector, we see metals, marble, gem and jewelry and gemstone cutting. These are some of the industries. Apart from that, salt, chemicals and textile industries are also very much prevalent in Rajasthan.
Do we have any SCZs in Rajasthan? Are you aware of it?
Yes, ma'am. We do have some SEZs in Rajasthan. For example, Kazri is one of the SEZ that is very famous in Rajasthan.
If you were given an opportunity to give inputs about how to increase export of gems and jewelry from Rajasthan, what would you suggest?
Ma'am, my first suggestion would be to increase the forward and backward linkages, particularly in the supply chain of jewelry gemstone. For example, in the Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have come up with the production linked incentive scheme, which can be extended to the jewelry stone and gemstone industry, so as to give exemptions and at the same time better income prospects to the people. Second one would be to go for labor laws, because a majority of this sector exists in the unorganized sector, and hence better labor laws will lead to more formalization and at the same time better output prospects.
Can you suggest some inputs using technology?
Ma'am, particularly in the industry of jewelry and gemstone, we do need certain technologies. For example, there are pilferages when we talk about transportation, particularly to the ports. So we can go for GPS and GIS tagging and bar-coded mechanisms so as to decrease this pilferage and hence increase the export value.
Okay, Mr. Chaudhary, since your optional is mathematics, and I have generally heard this notion, even read it at many places, that girls are not as good as mathematicians as boys. What is your opinion on that? Tell me honestly.
Ma'am, I totally disapprove of this notion, because mathematics depends on the analytical ability of an individual to grasp the concepts and solve the calculations or questions in a faster time. If we even speak from the Indian perspective, we had Mrs. Shakuntala Devi, who was a renowned mathematician and is still known as the human computer. So I do not believe there is any notion as such, and boys and girls are equally placed when it comes to mathematics.
Can you name any other woman mathematician apart from Shakuntala Devi ji?
I am sorry, ma'am, can't recall at this point.
It's okay. Since you're from Rajasthan and there's a boiling controversy in Rajasthan about torn jeans versus ghungat. So if you had to pick one of the two, which one will you pick and why?
Ma'am, both of these perspectives represent the traditional and the new form of culture. So personally, I would go for the torn jeans only because the perception of ghungat in Rajasthan stems from the patriarchy and as well as caste and class beliefs. So in terms of talking about modernism, I think torn jeans should be the future that we should be looking forward to.
Mr. Chaudhary, my last question to you would be, if you had to change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Ma'am, I would like to change my food habits because I am a big time foodie and I cannot resist foods of various cultures. So I think I would like to keep a check on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary.
Thank you, ma'am.
Divyanshu, just to follow up with a question that my colleague asked you earlier. As a child, I've always dreaded mathematics, and I'm sure a majority of children in India do so. But you have taken mathematics as an optional, and supposedly you are the district magistrate. What would you do to make mathematics an entertaining subject for students?
So my first approach would be to talk to students and talk about my personal experience with mathematics, since I was also not a good student of mathematics during my early days, but I practiced a lot, and with the help of my teachers, I was able to do well in my board and competitive exams. So I'll urge the students to practice more and at the same time take the help of their teachers who can help them solve questions better. Second would be to introduce mechanisms like Vedic maths and abacus, which can definitely help solve calculations faster and remove the fear of mathematics from the minds of students. So these will be my two approaches.
These two approaches that you've mentioned, with this in context, what do you think about the national education policy? Do you think this policy is going to be, cover all these solutions that you have mentioned?
So the national education policy definitely caters to innovation in all the segments of education. And since it refers to the concept of holistic learning, starting from 5+3+3+4 mechanism, right up to multilingualism, etc. So I think introduction of such mechanisms in all the languages in the Indian schools can definitely lead to better education prospects in mathematics in future.
Does that also assure that we will have much better engineers in the future?
Yes, sir. It is also looking like that because removal of mathematics and physics, particularly for streams like textiles, mining, etc., will lead to students developing more interest in varied subjects, and provision of bridge courses for such students can definitely help in a better engineering career because of interests in various subjects and at the same time in the country's development as well.
Divyanshu, as you're aware, you read the newspaper, we are celebrating the 50th year of the Indo-Soviet Friendship Treaty. It's been almost 50 years that we have had such close ties. But of late, at least for the last few years, we have witnessed that India-Russia's relationship has been frosty. Do you agree with it? If you do, where do you think we went wrong?
Sir, particularly post the LPG reforms of 91, we do see some sort of thaw between the relations of India and Russia. First reason is our closeness to US post the LPG reforms, and we are trying to balance that in terms of various multilateral forums that are present. Second is the closeness of Russia to China, particularly because of the Sino-Russian axis due to mineral resources and technological innovation of China, which could come together to counter US. So our approach should be a balanced one. And secondly, the reasons like, for example, imposition of CAATSA by US, where we were not able, we had to defend our decision to borrow S-400 from Russia. So I think these are some of the reasons because of which we do see a thaw in the relationship.
And do you believe that Russia will still stand by us as it did back in 1971?
Sir, I do believe that they will stand, particularly even if we talk about the today's news, Vladimir Putin has supported the presidency of India in the UNSC, and he has affirmed to these 5 principles that Sir talked about. And since we also have various mechanisms like SCO and 2+2 mechanisms with Russia, so I think developing our relations based on these mechanisms will help us go forward in a good future as well.
Okay, Divyanshu, my last question. I just realized that you are 27 or 28 years old. A lot of the committees, including various parliamentary committees, have decided to have the cutoff age at 26 or 27 for the civil services. I want you to be critical of this policy if you have a cutoff age at 27 or 20. Rather, I want you to give me a few reasons on why we should not have a cutoff age at 27.
So there can be multiple reasons for this. Firstly, talking from a personal experience, I realized that I wanted to pursue a civil services career at the age of 24. So the number of attempts for me will definitely reduce if the cutoff age is 27. And civil services being a tough competitive exam with less intake needs more number of attempts for all the aspirants.
Okay, next.
The second is, particularly if we have a lower cutoff age, there will be many people, particularly like management graduates, who will not be able to have their skills utilized in the civil services, which could be of profound effect, particularly in the administration. We are also seeing that the lateral entry, which the government is now going for, caters to these specialists in the civil services. So if we can directly recruit them via the process of civil services recruitment, why should we go for an age that is 26 or 27 and not 30 or 32? So I think these are some of the reasons because of which the age should remain, which is present as same.
Okay. Thank you, Divyanshu.
Thank you, sir.
Divyanshu, you have mentioned that you're interested in Indian mythology.
Yes, sir.
especially Mahabharata, as you said. Tell me, what exactly is the difference or relationship between mythology and history?
Mythology and history are two mechanisms which can be used to quench the thirst of human knowledge, particularly in the present generation. The basic difference is that mythology caters to the collection of folk genres which have gods and semi-gods as characters, and they display the social beliefs and values present in the society, while history represents the scientific observations and historical principles that actually happened in our past. So the thing is, history actually relates the real events that took place, while mythology relates to the events that are primarily catered to the natural values and beliefs of the society.
I tend to agree with you when you say that mythology actually represents the values that were prevalent or people used to believe. I think that is the reason why no Dalit scholar, no feminist scholar ever refers to mythology as something to look forward to. They are always critical of it, because mythology will essentially, because it represents the actual value, will essentially be anti-feminist, misogynist and anti-Dalits, isn't it?
Sir, I would slightly like to disagree with this opinion.
No, I just said what you said. I mean, I just agreed with what you said.
Sir, though the major representation of mythology definitely goes against the virtues of the society and the scheduled caste and tribes, but we also see certain characters who had their ambition and were able to come up to the level. For example, Karna in
Which
Mahabharata.
Effectively means they were not at the level. They
Yes,
could
sir.
come up to the level.
Yes, sir.
Which effectively means the society is anti-Dalit. They were not equal. Some of them somehow were able to come close to that. Effectively means that we are, as a society, blatantly anti-Dalit, anti-women.
Sir, the historical facts do represent that this might be the situation, but in the present scenario, I do not agree with this, because we are taking major steps to help the...
That is true. I mean, we have, that's because we rely more on constitution and not mythology.
Yes, sir.
So constitution is definitely not mythology and is egalitarian. But don't you believe that the scriptures, which you relish a lot, are actually, since they are misogynist and since they are anti-Dalits, should not be given the kind of significance it is given, should not be quoted so often, realizing that they actually hurt sentiments of a vast majority, because it was the scriptures which resulted in their being that downtrodden.
Sir, the reading of scriptures also is very much dependent on the perception of reader, and in my opinion, we should only take the positive values that we can derive from these scriptures and rely on that to build a better society from the present.
Is it ever
one.
possible that a text is there and you will take only the positive values out of it, though it is actually deeply entrenched into negative values?
Sir, as you rightly mentioned, the negative values also need to be catered to, but at the same time, our focus should be to get out of that and work towards a better future, rather than just blaming it blatantly on the scriptures that these negative values were never being catered to. So we should always have a progressive approach and realize that these negative values need to be turned into the positive values.
Anyways, Divyanshu, it was nice talking to you. Your interview is over. You can go now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. May I come in, sir?
Yes, please do.
Thank you, sir.
Take your seat, Divyanshu.
Thank you, sir.
Divyanshu, you have appeared earlier as well in the interview at the UPSC?
So last year.
Last year. What was your score then?
So my score was less, 146 only.
146. It was a bad day, or it was bad performance?
Sir, I was very nervous and I panicked in the interview, and I answered 2-3 easy questions of polity wrongly. So it just went downhill from there.
Okay. Since you've been through MIL, you understand what is expected of you. So what is your take on your performance today? Do you believe that it was okay, or there are areas you need to improve?
Sir, I firstly enjoyed the overall experience, so thank you for that. And so there are certain things, for example, as ma'am talked about the exports of gems and jewelry stone. So maybe I got too much into the nitty-gritties and I should have focused on broader levels. And sir, the scriptures thing that you talked about in the end, I'll also look into it so as to have a better answer. So yeah, some areas I'll need to improve here.
How about your communication? You believe that you were composed, you were better today, or you believe that still there are some areas where you can improve? Communication.
So my confidence was okay, but maybe I was speaking too fast. So I need to reduce my speed a bit. So I'll try to work on that.
See, Divyanshu, you are a good candidate. You have studied from nice institutions, and you have this ability to be in position to actually analyze yourself, and more or less you have done it right. Will you be wearing the same attire there?
No, sir.
So I'm not commenting on that because it looks a little informal right now,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So I'm sure you can handle that, the tie and the collar thing, right? So in general, you're a good candidate. You studied from IIM, you have studied from BITS. These things actually reflects in your personality and also the experience and the hard work that has gone in the preparation thing. So by and large, you are a prepared person. Going to the specifics, your entry is good, sitting posture is good, in general voice level is good. I don't think you were speaking too fast because it was the voice clarity was there.
Sure, sir.
And also that, in fact, in the initial part of it, at least in the verbal communication, it was the stability of your voice which actually attracted us. I mean, that was you were speaking every word clearly rather than just rushing through the words, which is generally the tendency with many candidates. Similarly, your hand movement is restricted. Eye contact in general is good. There is smile wherever required, and also the flow and vocabulary thing are in place. So on the communication front, by and large, you are doing things right. It is only at a few places in the content where it appears that you are a prepared candidate. So on most counts, usually the information that is required is there with you. Maybe a little more depth can be added, but that's not really an area of concern. It is only when it becomes purely open questions which cannot be prepared. And in any interview, there will be certain questions which cannot be prepared because obviously there is no syllabus, right? And obviously you will not be thinking the same things which the board member is thinking. So there will always be around 20%, 30% question which you cannot find in books.
Sure, sir.
These are the areas where I believe that there is still scope for some improvement. When you are facing a question which, be prepared for a question which you cannot read, right? And see how you respond to them.
Sure,
and these are the areas where, and these are the questions actually which give additional advantage when you are able to answer them. I mean, you can understand that if I give you 10 questions which are generally information based and you are able to answer them 8, doesn't matter. At best, what you have done is damage control. Had it been 4, there may be a situation which board members may say, okay, isko kuch nahi aata. But even if you answer 10 out of 10, okay, kya hai? Suchne information hai, that's what you know. Yes, so it's not a big deal. But if you are able to answer a few questions which are open-ended, right, which ask for the presence of mind or thinking right at that moment, and you are able to analyze that well, they are like slogging. They actually give you an additional advantage of 20 marks, 25 marks, sometimes 10 marks, and that counts.
Yes, sir.
So my request will be that focus on those areas. Get into those blind questions. Ask people to throw blind questions at you, which cannot be there in the books.
Yes,
and see how we react to them, right? That will be an area you can actually improve. You're doing good. You're not doing bad. But I still believe that your potential is a lot more than that, right? So you can actually handle these questions also well. Other things in general, your strength is that you're composed. You're not information deficit, which is also good. And you are able to analyze things when the facts are served to you or are available to you. But it is only where the area where the facts are not there or facts are not important,
yes,
you are asked to analyze. That is the only area where you can improve. Other things you are already doing very good. There was this question when the age question was thrown at you.
Yes, sir.
I believe that, it's obviously they will not be asking the same question, but in the similar question, when we have to give an opinion and you are a party to it for whatever reason,
yes,
right? I'll advise you to put yourself little later in terms of giving your reasoning. Let the other things which are not you be given prominence.
Sure, sir.
You're getting my point?
Yes, sir.
It should not appear as you're being too self-centric in analyzing things. right? I'm not saying don't include that, but in the later part. I mean, you cannot start an answer of a national significance with the management student centric reasoning.
Yes,
that
sir.
can be reason number 10, that can be reason number 8, but that cannot be reason number 1. It should be more like what will happen to the rural candidates who start late, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
that kind of stuff, who realize it late. And another thing, this is a very diverse country, right? So that will be a better approach to it.
Sure,
Other
sir.
things, I liked it, right? Think on that mythology thing, because there have been many, whoever in the Dalit and feminist thinkers are, they have been attacking mythology always.
Yes, sir.
So it makes sense to prepare a bit.
So just one follow-up question on the mythology bit only. What you said was absolutely correct, but I was just trying to give it a positive tone so as to not fall into the trap.
That was good. That
So
was good.
I hope that was okay.
That was okay. The only thing is that you should accept with the acceptance part of it. That yes, there exist this very same line. The feminist thinkers as well as the Dalit thinkers. You can even name a couple of people
Yes,
who have actually objected to mythology. Our mythology being more Brahmanical and more elitist, and to some extent anti-women, right? And then you can bring in your part,
Sure, sir.
right? All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.